gently strokes the brush against the monument just one last time.
Well, this is the 17,000th and the last leaf that I place here.
France says no to a temporary Grexit plan. President Hollande says he'll do his best to keep Greece within the Eurozone, while Germany says that can't be done at any price. Top US and Iranian officials say a nuclear deal isn't likely to be reached today. This as the deadline keeps being pushed back and major differences still need to be ironed out. And prison guards in Mexico City are being interrogated after a drug lord escaped a maximum security jail. Police are frantically searching for El Chapo, who already broke free once before. Hello and welcome to France 24. I'm Aurora Dupuy. Let's go straight to our top story. France and Germany seem divided over the fate of Greece. French President Hollande warns that a Grexit is not a solution. He wants the debt-ridden country to curb its economic woes and to remain in the Eurozone. Take a listen to François Hollande.
What's at stake here is whether or not Greece will still be in the Eurozone tomorrow. Europe is at stake. It's not just coming to a decision on Greece, although of course that's the pressing issue. It's about our understanding of what Europe is, what Europe's interests are, not our national interests, but what our European interests are, what we have in common. France will do everything it can to find a deal tonight, which will allow Greece, if the right conditions are in place, to stay in the Eurozone, and which will allow Europe to move forward.
But Germany is Greece's biggest creditor, and for the Germans, Greece needs to implement harsher austerity measures if it wants to obtain a third bailout. Well, the Greek Prime Minister says he is willing to make some efforts.
I'm here ready for an honest compromise. We owe that to the peoples of Europe, who wants Europe united and not divided. We can reach an agreement tonight if all parties want it.
Well, for more on this, let's cross over to our European Affairs editor, Christophe Rabit, who joins us live from Brussels. Christophe, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel says that the Greek deal cannot be reached at, quote, any price, while France fights to keep Greece in the Eurozone. Tell us what's going on.
Well, as you can see, our European and Eurozone leaders are very divided about what to do with Greece exactly 1 week after the Greek referendum, which saw a massive no triumph against austerity. The French president is clearly leading the anti-Grexit camp. He's been actively lobbying in the past few days to make sure that Greece can stay in the Eurozone. He wants that. This is not only about Greece, but about the very future of Europe. And what he means is that a Grexit could have disastrous economic, political and geopolitical consequences. France is being followed by a number of countries, not least Spain, Italy, Cyprus, Portugal. The European Commission totally agrees with the French president. But we also have to hear, of course, from the Nordic countries and the Eastern European countries, notably Germany, Finland, the Baltic states, who have a different reading. They say that the problem at this stage of the crisis is trust. They don't trust Mr. Tsipras anymore. They believe that the referendum was a betrayal. They don't believe that Mr. Tsipras will deliver on all the reforms that were put forward to the Europeans on Thursday. So what's at stake here tonight is to try and appease this very nervous atmosphere within the Eurozone, and it's about winning back the trust that badly lacks at the moment. As you can hear, it's all about trust, really, and the trust is lacking in many countries. That's what Angela Merkel said when she arrived here. She said, I fully appreciate what's at stake here, but we have to talk about trust. We don't trust Mr. Tsipras anymore, so expect the Germans to ask even more concessions and more conditionality before possibly any aid is provided to the Greeks.
But Christophe, trust goes both ways, and Alexis Tsipras has just said that, quote, for an agreement to be viable, it must respect fundamentally the Greek people and everything they have endured over the last 5 years. So it seems that none of these camps want to actually budge.
No, but they probably will have to at the last minute, and they will have to find a solution, a sort of fudge that allows everyone to come out of this in a more or less clean way, although things have gone so far that this might be very difficult to achieve. But you're right, because when you look at it, Mr. Tsipras was elected six months ago as an anti-austerity leader, someone who would put an end to austerity. He tried hard to get what he calls a fair deal from Europe's creditors. He even went as far as to organize a referendum last week, which saw, as I said, a massive no win the referendum, a strong message against austerity. 5 days later, though, Mr. Tsipras agreed to send a last-ditch reform proposal to Brussels, which more or less is the same as what was put to the Greeks just before the referendum. So you see, he's had to backtrack a lot. He feels that Greece has already done a lot, and now he expects Germany, Finland to also reach out to Greece. But as I said, it's all about trust. And you know, a third bailout will cost more than 50 billion euros, possibly 70 billion euros, and the Germans are not willing to sign a check providing, unless they're totally confident that the Greeks will deliver on the reforms. And they say that so far Greece has never delivered. Was it under Tsipras or before under Prime Minister Samaras or Papandreou? There is a sense in Germany that patience is running out, and we know that the German public has turned against the Greek people, so, and against the idea of a third bailout. So this is very complex, this is very complicated. We're talking about big money, but we're also talking about the future of Europe, and that's certainly the message that the French president has come to convey here in Brussels, that this is about the future of Europe, the future of the Eurozone and its credibility on the markets.
All right, Christophe, thank you very much for that update. Christophe Verbeet reporting there from Brussels, and we've just heard that the Eurogroup meeting has just ended. That's according to the spokesperson. All right, let's bring in our guest, Thomas Grjebine, who's an economy expert. Thank you very much for being with us on France 24. Now, Germany and France clearly disagree on the fate of Greece here, whether it should stay in the Eurozone or not. What would happen if Greece left? How would the rest of Europe be affected?
I think you have two main consequences. Firstly, you have economic consequences, and these are the big mystery, because we don't know really what will happen. You can have a financial contagion, you have a very big financial risk for Greece and also for Europe. For Greece, directly you can have the end of the Greek banking system. But for Europe also, you have very big risk. But I think, according to me, the biggest risk is a political one. And as François Hollande said, I think it's really the future of Europe which is at stake this evening.
A political risk for Europeans, but also for the Greeks themselves, right?
Yes, of course, because again, we don't know if the Europeans don't find an agreement this evening. We really don't know what will happen tomorrow. Will the banks open? I don't think so. Will they have to create a new currency? Probably. But at the end, I think the very big risk is for all of us is what will happen for the Eurozone in 5 years, 10 years, if now Greece exits.
Okay, and what if in the end, this is the complete, total opposite scenario. If a deal is actually reached, Greece accepts more austerity and it gets its third bailout. Concretely, how will Greece be able to pay back its creditors?
I think they will not be able to pay back their creditors. I think it will be bad also for Greece because they cannot handle no more austerity measure. We have seen the result of this austerity measure during the last 5 years. If they implement this new austerity measure, we can expect more unemployment, no growth. So at the end, the real question is the debt restructuration.
All right, thank you very much for that analysis. Thomas Grjebine reporting thank you for coming here on France 24. Well, another crucial round of talks is also taking part in Vienna. World powers are trying to negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran. The deadline's been pushed back and back again to Monday. And the aim of these talks is to prevent Tehran from building a nuclear weapon. And in exchange, international sanctions would be lifted. Well, today, a senior US State Department official said that many major issues have yet to be resolved, while an Iranian official says it's logistically impossible to reach a deal today. But for our reporter Sanam Chantier, who's been covering the discussions from the start, things seem slightly more positive than ever.
This is the most optimistic atmosphere that we've had here in the Austrian capital. Now, the US Secretary of State, who's been at these talks longer than any other US official has sat down at a negotiating table over the past 4 decades, said to journalists earlier that they've had good meetings, that it's really the time to make those big decisions. A Western official also said that this could be the eve of a historical moment to remember. Now, on top of that, on Saturday night, I spoke to Iran's chief atomic energy agency, Ali Akbar Salehi, who told me that this is good news, that this couldn't be even better. Now, all of that said, we know that the US Secretary of State John Kerry and his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Javad Zarif have been going at this for 15 days. And we know that there are still a number of hurdles to overcome. But according to both sides, some 98% of the agreement has now been drafted. The one thing we do know is that whether it's announced today or on Monday, we know that neither side wants to actually go back to their respective capitals like they've done previously, because every time they've done that, they've come back with even more sticking points. So we'll just have to keep a very close eye at the Coburg behind us to see whether in the coming hours we'll have some kind of an announcement with regard to this final comprehensive agreement.
In other news, a Palestinian prisoner returned home to the West Bank after having spent a year in an Israeli prison. Kader Adnan was held under administrative detention, meaning that he was held without charge indefinitely. Like him, 379 Palestinians are detained that way in Israel. Adnan went on a hunger strike to protest against the procedure. He came close to death and was greeted to a hero's welcome in his village. Haxi Mez-Belkin reports.
Fireworks filled the West Bank sky at dawn on Sunday as Kader Adnan, an Islamic Jihad leader, was released from Israeli detention. This after a deal struck last month in which he agreed to end a 56-day hunger strike in exchange for his freedom.
I see abundant happiness among Palestinians, but also Palestinian pain and hope for the freedom of all prisoners, God willing. The occupation made a mistake in arresting me the first time and the second time and all previous arrests.
Refusing to eat for almost 2 months, Adnan has been a key figure in the so-called battle of empty stomachs against Israeli detentions without trial, a measure Israel says is justifiable in the name of national security. Adnan was at one point admitted to hospital in a critical condition, fearing a violent backlash and the provocation of a fragile truce in Gaza in the eventuality of his death. Israel freed him in the early hours of Sunday. Much to the relief of his wife, this isn't the first of her husband's hunger strikes she's had to endure.
This is the biggest victory, one of the greatest victories. I consider it even greater than his first victorious hunger strike, because he did it for longer this time.
Adnan is a known Islamic Jihad figure in the West Bank. territory occupied by Israel that Palestinians want for their own future state. Like Islamist Hamas, Islamic Jihad opposes peace deals for the region and advocates the destruction of Israel.
18 prison guards have been taken in for questioning in Mexico City after an infamous drug lord escaped prison. Joaquin Guzman is the most wanted drug lord in the country.